My name is Jordan Myers, and I'm 34 years old. I work full-time as a trauma nurse in Phoenix, Arizona, and for the past decade, I've been the unspoken financial backbone of my family. Though no one ever asked if I volunteered for that job, it started small. An emergency dentist bill for my younger brother Caleb, a car repair loan for my sister Lauren, groceries for my parents when dad's hours were cut. Each time, I told myself, it's just this once, but once became, again, a horror and eventually, always. I didn't have much, but I always figured that's what family did. We supported each other. I didn't realize support meant I'd be the one holding everyone else up, while no one noticed I was sinking. It got to the point where they didn't even ask anymore. They just assumed. They assumed I'd foot the bill, pick up the slack, and never complain. That was the version of me they knew. The reliable one. The nurse with a steady paycheck. No kids. No partner. No distractions. So when Mom called and casually mentioned that flights to Maui were down to $1, 200s, and said, if you can't afford it, just stay behind, I nodded. She didn't ask if I wanted to go or if I could swing the cost. She just made the decision and moved on. I had just finished a double shift, still in my scrubs, my hair sticking to the back of my neck, and she was planning a luxury vacation like she was ordering takeout. I swallowed the hurt and said it was fine. But what I didn't know was that they had already booked the trip using my credit card. That night, as I sat on the couch eating leftover rice and scrolling through cat videos just to decompress, I got a ping from my credit card app. 4 tickets, business class, totaling over $4. 800. I opened the details, and there it was. Caleb Myers, Lauren Daniels, Sandra Myers, William Myers. Not a single mention of Jordan Myers. My card, their names. No permission. No text. Not even a heads up. My breath caught, and my fingers went cold. I didn't even get a window seat out of it. I immediately hit dispute all and locked the account. An hour later, as I was brushing my teeth, another notification popped up. This time from Lauren. Why is nothing paid for? We're at check-in. I wiped the foam from my mouth, stared at her text for a long second, and replied with 4 words that carried years of resentment. What you said stayed behind. No caps, no emotion, just truth. Then I booked my own solo getaway to Santa Fe. Nothing fancy, but warm, quiet, and mine. The next day, Dad showed up at my apartment. He knocked like he had a key, like he still had access to my life. I sat behind the door and listened to the pounding grow softer with each minute. I didn't open it, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. This wasn't about the tickets. This was about every moment they assumed I would just pick up the pieces without ever asking how many of mine were broken. They had called it family. I had called it duty, but it wasn't either of those things. It was manipulation, packaged as tradition. It was dependence disguised as love, and I had finally seen it for what it was. I was tired of being their safety net, the invisible net beneath their acrobatics. Every time they flew too close to the sun, I was the one catching the fall, and they never looked down to see what it cost me. I remembered all the times I gave them money, time, energy, and got nothing but silence when I needed anything in return. When I had pneumonia last winter and couldn't get out of bed, I called Mom to ask for soup. She said she couldn't because she promised Lauren she'd babysit while Lauren got her nails done. I understood, she said. I always did. When Caleb wrecked my car, the one I let him borrow, he shrugged and said, that's what insurance is for. Like I hadn't just watched my premium double. The irony is, I never expected anything back. I just thought one day they'd appreciate it. That day never came. But the wake-up call did, and it wasn't loud. It was quiet. Like the quiet that followed locking my credit card. Like the quiet when no one texted to apologize, like the quiet that settled in my apartment after Dad left. But it wasn't loneliness, it was peace. The peace of knowing I was finally drawing a line. They thought silence meant surrender. They thought I'd cave like always. But this time, silence was a decision, a boundary, a beginning. That night, for the first time in years, I made dinner just for me. I didn't answer calls. I didn't feel guilty. I lit a candle, played music, and realized I didn't need their version of family to feel whole. I had spent years earning love by being useful. Now, I wanted to see what it felt like to just be me and know that was enough. It's strange how quiet clarity can be. You expect some grand, cinematic epiphany, but when you finally choose yourself, it's just calm. That first morning in Santa Fe, I woke up to sunlight spilling through linen curtains and the hum of nothing pressing against me. No missed calls, no passive-aggressive texts, just silence. And for once, it didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like air. I sat on the edge of the bed, sipping coffee, scrolling through photos of them at the airport. Kayla, sorry, Lauren, was already posting stories. Family time, Maui bound. Caleb wore designer sunglasses I hadn't seen before. Probably another item quietly charged to my card during one of his emergencies. But I didn't get angry. I just took a screenshot and filed it away. That was the beginning of something I hadn't done in years. Keeping receipts, literally and figuratively. I opened a folder on my laptop and titled it, Patterns I Won't Repeat. I started listing every time they'd taken, manipulated, or minimized, not to seek revenge, but to remind myself that this was real, that I wasn't overreacting, because that's how it always went. I'd get upset, they'd gaslight me into silence, and I'd end up apologizing for having boundaries. Not anymore. Back home, the silence didn't last. 3 days into my trip, my voicemail filled up. First was Lauren. You're seriously blowing this out of proportion. We thought you were okay with helping. You always are. You could have just said no without being so dramatic. Then Dad, Jordan, I flew back early to talk to you. The least you could do is pick up your phone. This is not how we solve things. Mom followed. We're a family. Jordan, families stick together. This is hurting all of us. Think about what you're doing. I played those messages on repeat, not because I was tempted to reply, but because they confirmed everything. None of them apologized. None asked how I felt. They were upset that I said no, that I broke script, that I stopped playing the dependable one. And when I didn't respond, the guilt campaign intensified. Lauren sent a photo of my niece with the caption, Missing Aunt Jojo. Then came Caleb's text. Thanks for ruining our trip. Derek had to pay out of pocket because you canceled everything. You've really changed. Yes, I had, but not the way they thought. I came back to Phoenix a week later, tanned, rested, and honestly lighter. I changed the locks to my apartment, got a new credit card, froze the old one. The day after I returned, I sat down with a pen, a notebook, and a bottle of Cabernet. I drafted something I never thought I'd write. A financial invoice, not to be petty, but to be clear. For once, they would see in black and white what they had taken. 600 Tossin, Keens, engagement party dress for Lauren, $2. 500, loan to Caleb during his layoff, $800. Dad's MRI deductible, 420. Groceries from the month Mom forgot to Venmo back, $4. 800. 4 business class tickets to Hawaii, charged without consent, 150. Interest and late fees from the unauthorized charges, total $9. 270 I emailed it to our family group thread under the subject line, Reimbursement Request for Unauthorized and Outstanding Financial Contributions. In the body, I wrote, per your belief that family is about support, I am requesting repayment for the following expenses, all of which I covered in good faith over the past 2 years. Moving forward, I will no longer be providing financial assistance to any family member. Full repayment is expected within 30 business days. Failure to respond will result in formal reporting to my credit provider regarding unauthorized use of financial credentials. The response was instant. Lauren, are you kidding me? You're invoicing your own family. Mom, this is so hurtful. Jordan, we raised you better. Caleb, this is next level ungrateful. I didn't respond. I just screenshot everything and added it to the folder. Later that evening, Dad showed up. Again, this time. He wasn't alone. Mom came too. They knocked. I didn't open. I just stood on the other side of the door and listened. Jordan, you need to stop this nonsense. Dad called. This is not how you treat your parents. Then Mom chimed in, her voice cracking. You've changed. This isn't the daughter we raised. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't. I wasn't the daughter they raised. I had raised myself. I had learned to keep going when they leaned on me too hard. I had picked myself up after being drained dry, again and again. I had created a version of myself they could depend on, but never respected. That door stayed closed. That evening, I sent one final message to the group thread. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. If that's too hard for you to understand, I suggest some reflection, not another demand. And then I muted the chat. For the first time in years, I slept 8 uninterrupted hours. No tresa, anxiety, no dreaming about overdrafts, no mental math of what I could afford to give up next month. Just rest. And the next morning, something unexpected happened. I felt proud, not angry, not bitter, just proud that I finally chose myself. And that, maybe, I could do it again tomorrow. I didn't expect silence to be so addictive. Once I turned the volume down on my family, I started hearing myself again. My wants, my limits, even my voice. It was unfamiliar at first, like tuning into a frequency I hadn't visited in years. But the more I listened, the clearer it got. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was just done. Then came the twist I hadn't anticipated. It was a Tuesday afternoon, mid-July. I was charting post-op notes during a lull in the ER when a notification popped up on my phone. Attempted charge blocked. $842.76. Luxury car rental. Honolulu International Airport. My old card, the one I'd frozen. I stared at it for a long minute, not sure whether to laugh or scream. Caleb, it had to be him. Maybe Derek again. Maybe both. Same pattern. Reckless entitlement. No accountability. And me left, cleaning up the mess. But this time, the card was locked. The fraud alert came straight to me, and I had receipts. I called the fraud department, confirmed it was Caleb's ID info on the booking, and had them document everything. Would you like to press charges? The agent asked. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. Not yet, I replied. Just flag the activity and send me a written report. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number. We're stranded. Are you seriously going to leave your family like this after everything we've done for you? Caleb, that line, after everything we've done for you, I could practically feel the irony slap me in the face. I stared at it, screen, glowing in the dark, then calmly took a screenshot and filed it in the Patterns I Won't Repeat folder. No response, just silence. That was my new favorite language. But life has a funny way of answering questions you didn't even know you had. 2 days later, I got a message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Marissa, Caleb's ex-wife. She and I were never close, but we'd always shared a knowing look at family gatherings, the kind forged from surviving similar nonsense. She moved across the country after the divorce and ghosted the family, something I once judged her for. Now, I considered her a role model. Hey, Jordan, sorry to reach out like this, but I think you deserve to know some things. She attached a PDF. I hesitated, then opened it. My blood ran cold. It was a paper trail. Bank transfers, screen captures, text messages, showing Caleb had been secretly rerouting money from a family account my parents had set up for emergencies. Apparently, the emergency was his latest obsession with crypto trading and luxury watches. But that wasn't the worst of it. There were emails, one from Mom. Please don't report Caleb. He's just going through a rough time. Jordan doesn't need to know. One from Dad. We'll handle it. She's been on edge lately anyway. If she finds out, she might cut us off. They knew, all of them. They knew Caleb was siphoning funds. They knew he had used my name, my cards, and my credit. And instead of stopping him, they hid it from me because they were more afraid of losing their financial lifeline than of betraying me outright. That night, I called Marissa. Why now? I asked her, why send this to me? She paused, then said quietly, because you finally did what I never could. You said no, and I figured someone should have your back now that you don't have theirs. I didn't cry, not right away. I sat with that for a long time. The realization that the people who were supposed to protect me had instead weaponized my loyalty. I printed everything, every email, every transfer, every pathetic excuse, and clipped it to the original invoice I had sent. Then I added a cover sheet titled Supplemental Evidence, Misuse of Funds and Fraudulent Activity. The next morning, I resent the invoice to the family group chat, this time with all of Marissa's documents attached. Subject line, formal reimbursement request, plus documentation of fraud. I BCC'd Aunt Lydia, Mom's older sister, and the family's moral compass. I also, just for curiosity, sent a redacted version to Dad's employer's HR department from a private burner email, not because I wanted to ruin him, just balance the scales. Later that week, I got an alert. Dad was no longer listed on his company's website, quietly let go. No doubt, I didn't gloat. I didn't feel triumphant, just relieved. Around that same time, I started going to therapy, real in-person sessions with a woman named Dr. Ellie Chen. She asked gentle questions, like why I felt so responsible for everyone else, why I equated love with sacrifice, why it took me 34 years to say the word enough out loud. I didn't have clean answers, but I was finally asking the right questions. Then there was David. We met in the hospital cafeteria during a slow Thursday lunch. He was a respiratory therapist who made terrible jokes and excellent Thai curry recommendations. He didn't know about my family, at least not yet. And when I did tell him, piece by piece, he didn't flinch, just listened, held my hand, and said, "You don't have to prove anything to me. Jordan, I like you because of how strong you are, not because of how much you give away." He was the first person who saw my strength as something to honor, not exploit. And suddenly, I could breathe. 6 months after I shut the door in my father's face, I still hadn't opened it again. Not literally, not emotionally, but I wasn't angry anymore, just clean. That's the word I kept using in therapy. Clean, not numb, not vindictive, just free of their chaos, of the obligations they insisted were love, of the role I'd been forced to play. Provider, fixe, ATM, peacekeeper. I used to think walking away from family would feel like losing a limb. Instead, it felt like shedding a cast, heavy, restrictive, not part of me anymore. Then came the letter, handwritten, no return address. But the swooping script gave it away before I even opened the envelope. Lauren, 5 full pages, equal parts, apology and accusation. We all make mistakes, she wrote, but you took it too far. Mom cries every day. Caleb can't sleep. Dad lost his job. We're family. Jordan, that doesn't change. At the bottom, we hope you'll come back to us someday. I folded the letter and added it to the drawer, next to the invoice, the screenshots, and the bank reports from Marissa. Receipts. Proof. But I didn't need proof anymore. I wasn't trying to convince myself. I wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't. Closure didn't come from their apologies. It came from my decision to stop bleeding for people who only noticed when I stopped. The night before my birthday, I got a card in the mail. Simple, blank outside. Inside, 3 words handwritten in small print. And I see you. It was signed, Marissa. That one, I pinned to the corkboard above my desk. I didn't cry. I just smiled. Because someone finally did. Life moved forward. Not fast, but steady. I bought a bike. I started baking again. I cooked something new every Sunday. David and I went hiking. We didn't talk about the past much, unless I brought it up. When I told him about the invoice and everything that followed, he didn't recoil. He just squeezed my hand and said, "It's not about what they took. It's about what you reclaimed." He was right. My peace, my autonomy, my worth. For so long, I thought being the good one meant being the one who sacrificed the most. But now I saw it clearly. Good doesn't mean self-erasure. Then something unexpected happened. I ran into my mother at a downtown coffee shop. Completely by accident, I had my earbuds in, hoodie up, espresso in hand, halfway out the door when I heard it. Her voice, Jordan. I turned. She looked smaller than I remembered, not just in size, in energy. Like time had shrunk her. She gave a tentative smile, like we hadn't declared war, by voicemail. And silence. "Can we sit?" she asked. We sat. She talked first, a lot, rambling stories. No real apology, just soft revisionism. "We didn't realize how much you were carrying. We were just trying to hold things together. If we could do it over." But there was no, "I'm sorry." No. What we did was wrong. Just a kind of emotional dress rehearsal. Like I was supposed to jump into the role of forgiving daughter, because that's what she needed. But I wasn't performing anymore. Finally, she asked the question I knew was coming. "Do you hate us now?" I didn't flinch. "No," I said. "But I don't owe you anything anymore." She blinked. "But we're family." "That's not an argument," I replied. "That's an excuse." She reached into her purse and pulled out a white envelope, handed it across the table. "This is for you. Just think about coming back." When she left, I opened it. A check. San Singdain. Kanchen sign. Using Stein. $. 270. No note. No apology. Just silence with a $sign. I didn't cash it. Not right away. I pinned it to my wall, beneath a quote I'd printed in bold letters. "You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm." I cashed it 2 weeks later, and then I donated every cent to a scholarship fund for nurses who supported their families through school. Because someone out there is 24, tired, in debt, and breaking her back to pay rent while her family vacations in first class. She deserves to know she's not alone, and that it's okay to say no. David and I moved in together that fall. A bright, 2-bedroom apartment with hardwood floors and too much sunlight. I bought houseplants. I started writing again. I smiled more. Not because life was perfect, but because it was mine. One evening, sitting on our patio, with a glass of wine and our rescue dog curled at my feet, David asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I thought for a moment. Sometimes, I said, not the people, the idea of them, the version of family I kept trying to find inside them. He nodded. And now? Now I know. I was the family I needed all along. He smiled, kissed my temple, and said, I see you, Jordan. And for the first time, I believed him, not because he said it, because I did too.